You're listening to the Youth Critic Podcast on KHZ Network. Find us on Facebook at DecibelUNG Radio and find us on Twitter at DecibelUNG. If you like this episode, please leave a like and comment on our iTunes page at KHZ Network. And now for the podcast.
I came home, there was a man in my house. He had an artificial arm.
Are you saying that I killed my wife? Are you saying that I crushed her skull and that I shot her?
Hello everyone, welcome to the Youth Critic Retrospectives. I am your host, Kel Smith. Joining me on this venture is Justin Mayhew.
Hello, you cadets from outer space.
And today we are going to be talking about The Fugitive with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee.
And a very angry freight train.
Yep, lots of trains in this movie.
There are, actually.
The train is a secret Alfred Hitchcock cameos.
Yes.
But yeah, so we are kind of jumping ahead because there's not really that. I really didn't. There wasn't really there was a Sean Connery film that came out. I mean, there was some stuff that came out like on the last weekend of July of 1993, but I was just like. It's not really worth doing a retrospective over, and I kind of just wanted to get to The Fugitive. So here we are, and on top of that, we're on time because we're releasing it on the actual anniversary of The Fugitive. So that's what we're going to be talking about that today. So Justin, what's your history with The Fugitive?
Well, I did see it in the theaters when it first came out, and I thought that the aforementioned train wreck was a pretty efficiently and impressively staged bit of action. And of course, the obvious, swan dive off of the dam everybody thinks about, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, The Fugitive, it's interesting because I have just only seen this movie for the podcast, even though it's a staple action thriller classic. It's part of that 90s trend of, well, let's adapt, TV shows into movies.
Yeah, sort of a forerunner of our remake fever that we have now,
Right. And I could not see... maybe I should have watched at least an episode or two of the show before, but I couldn't imagine this being a TV show.
Yeah, I've actually seen a couple of the episodes, not all the way through, but I'm acquainted with them, and it's very 60s. And if you're not a real super 60s nerd, it's going to be kind of an issue to get through, And also the whole thing about the one-armed man, this whole Kimball character in the 60s and in this version is loosely or popularly believed to be loosely based on Dr. Shepard in the late 50s who was accused of killing his wife and blamed it on a bushy-haired man. Well, not one-armed, but he had bushy hair. So it's sort of loosely based on a real-life trial expose, as most people think. The creator of the show said he didn't, but, well, who knows?
Well, I mean, subconsciously he probably heard about it and then forgot the source material. I mean, things happen.
Sure. I mean, you hear that in music all the time where, somebody uses a melody and it turns out to be somebody else's melody, like the ex-Beatles. What's his name? Hallelujah?
Paul McCarthy?
No. He was
John Lennon?
No. Not Ringo.
I don't know what that other one is. That guy. We'll just say that guy.
Frappy, Lappy, Dappy. He had the biggest hits after the band broke up. But his song Hallelujah, Hare Krishna, Hallelujah, was accused of having been stolen from a Motown song. That whole big trial about that.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so for me, The Fugitive, I've just seen it for the first time, and
Freshly.
I think the issue is with this movie is it's still very well made. Like Andrew Davis, and we'll get into the production history in a little bit, but Andrew Davis does make a competent movie. It is a really good screenplay, and
by David Twohy.
And Jeb Stewart, the co-writer of Die Hard. And it's a well-made movie, and it feels more authentic than, let's say, maybe the Taken movies or some of the more over-the-top Luc Besson joints of this kind of premise.
Yeah. those Taken movies, I refuse to watch those.
Yeah. So I don't. So it's a good movie, but I think the problem with The Fugitive is everyone's kind of taken like a stab at that story or that kind of premise in some shape or form, and it's always the ticking clock. Or the conspiracy, and it makes for a good story, and it makes for a cheap action movie. But in this day and age, it's like it's been kind of overdone. So of course, when I get to this, The Fugitive, which is basically the start of it all, it's like watching The Maltese Falcon after being exposed to so many TV procedurals and crime shows. It's like being exposed to that old Humphrey Bogart movie. And you're going, oh, this is where it began. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not interesting. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? I would highly recommend that you go out and watch The Maltese Falcon right now, I would say.
I mean, it's like this one. It's a great movie, but or it's a really good movie. It's just, I think you're just burned, and I think that's the problem of constantly redoing premises over and over and over, is that you just burn the future audiences of who's going to, eventually stumble upon like a Maltese Falcon or this. You're going to stumble upon this problem of where they're going to be like, well, like, it's well done, but I kind of could tell you where it was going to go. Like from after the first 40 minutes, I could tell you where it was going to end.
I've had that with a lot of movies, I'm afraid, but with like The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep, come on, those are that's classic right there. I can't knock those.
Yeah, I mean. But I mean, it's a good story, and it is very interesting. And Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, who only share a couple minutes on screen together, do have a really good bickering throughout the whole movie, or create a foil, because one's trying to catch the other, one's trying to leave the other. I mean, it's very interesting how they almost intersect, and he's almost caught and in a way, it's a really interesting story. Although even though I just watched the movie, I couldn't tell you what was the reasoning for the villain to frame this all on Richard.
Because he wasn't going to go along. It's a pretty paper thin excuse, but the idea was that they're rushing this new vascular medicine
vascular
out,
disease.
Yeah, for helping with heart attacks and things like that. But it caused liver damage, and they're trying to cover it up. But it's such a massive cover up and such massive liver damage that they were going to be exposed pretty quickly anyway. And so, Dr. Richard Kimball standing in the way of this thing is going to crumble like a house of cards, pretty quickly, even without him. So their back plot that they're trying to cover up the liver damage that this new wonder drug does. It's pretty. Slapdash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the film. Okay, so I was kind of all for a drug that would fall apart instantly. Okay,
yeah,
whatever. I mean, the Mission Impossible movies have had crazier things that have crazier MacGuffins. So, But yeah, that's kind of my whole thing about this movie is it's a really good movie.
It's well paced. It's well directed, well acted. But I do have some character issues.
Well, go ahead, because I don't have that much to say on
right.
this movie.
Well, how Richard Kimball is, the put upon man, And, nobody believes him, but he's such a good man. And they show it repeatedly. He saves the guard and he saves the prisoner.
Saves the kid.
Yeah, saves the kid. And there's like the most obvious thing where here's a vascular surgeon who, works in a very particular thing, comes into an emergency room and immediately can detect a disease that this emergency room doctor hasn't seen. And quite frankly, first off, there's an issue with that because a vascular surgeon is not an emergency room doctor. Those are completely different environments with completely different stressors,
Right.
And secondly, it kind of makes me think that Dr. Richard Kimball is what they call a Gary Stu. Have you ever heard of that?
Explain that for the listener.
Okay, Gary Stu is the male version of the Mary Sue, the perfect character who has a terrible life that everybody loves, but they're she's such a wonderful person, but so these terrible things have happened to her.
He or she is empowered.
Yeah, that they become disempowered and have to regain their power through showing what a great and kind and merciful person they are. It's almost an avatar of the writer showing, I'm a great guy. This character is sort of an avatar of me. Look how great of a guy. I'm so misunderstood.
Right. Well, I think it's important to show throughout the film multiple times that Kimball is innocent, because maybe it would have been more interesting if Kimball was like just going crazy and he was doing, and that was the twist, was he was going insane trying to find this person, but ultimately it's himself. But I think the film is trying very hard to be like, no, it's not,
Sure, but I'm very Kimball. Yeah, I'm just very sensitive to that. If they could push it a little too far for me, I think let the characters' general actions speak for themselves. It's also another thing. Have you heard of kick the dog, pet the dog?
Explain that for the listener, too.
Okay. Kick the dog, pet the dog is a trope where the good guy finds a puppy or a kitten, and they pick it up and they stroke it, they pet it, they feed it, they treat it nice. And
to
the bad
humanize
guy,
the character.
Yeah, and then the bad guy, comes up and slaps or smacks or crashes or punches, sometimes literally kicking the dog. An example was in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the classic spaghetti western with Clint Eastwood, where he's sitting waiting for the other gang members to come, and they're watching the Union Army go by through this shelled-out town. He's got a couple of kittens sitting in his hat. He's just sitting there rubbing these kittens, petting these kittens in his hat, waiting.
Right.
And that's an example of pet the dog, kick the dog, right there. And that's what it means. It's a shorthand to show a good or bad character. And, they're useful to show good or bad in a very shorthand way, but it's easy to put a lot, like you put a lot of mayonnaise on a sandwich and overpower it sometimes.
Right. Right, so where does that fit here?
Well, it's that, like he goes and helps the boy in the thing. It's the Gary Stu and the pet the dog, kick the dog are kind of ham-handed, like super shorthand ways of showing a good or a bad character. And, it's necessary, to show in shorthand ways. The tropes are there for a reason.
Right.
Cliches and tropes work for a reason, but you have to be careful and judicious about their application. A little sprinkle of balsamic vinaigrette on your salad is good, but you swim that sucker in it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the same of, Caesar dressing on a salad.
Right.
Or, the Big Mac sauce on
yes.
a Big Mac.
I think there may be a little too much dressing on this movie, man.
Yeah. But I agree. But I understand the point of it. I understand, and of course, and this is a very studio friendly.
Oh yes.
This is this is Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones.
Right.
So they.
And a nice a little bonus, Joey Pantaleone, who's going to later on be the bad guy from The Matrix.
Well, the bad guy in a lot of movies.
Yeah. This time he's playing a subordinate good guy.
Yeah.
But.
Well, and on this one, the Fugitive, it's very I was kind of looking through the production history of this, and Andrew Davis turned in a first cut after months of filming, through the winter of '92 and '93, and everyone was like, "Don't cut a frame; it's great." Well, there was still 1,600 cuts of the movie to try and get the movie down to its pace and get it down to its 2-hour intimate level. But it just kind of shows you how studio friendly this was, or the movie is, because people just genuinely liked the film and they genuinely bought into Harrison Ford's performance. And
yeah, it's a pretty good vehicle. I mean, I complain, but it is. You look at it on paper and in production, it's the perfect Harrison Ford vehicle.
well, it's the perfect star vehicle.
Pardon?
It's a perfect star vehicle.
Right, but Harrison Ford fits into it pretty well, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's just say let's put Matthew McConaughey in this.
No. No. I disagree wholeheartedly. You give me that. I stab you in the eye for that. No, I don't. Matthew McConaughey, not a Harrison Ford. I know Harrison Ford, man. He is no Harrison Ford, man.
But here's this. But
and of course, I lied about that.
But I'm saying, like, this is as an example, this is a good star vehicle, because the good guy is doing good, but he's, walking through the woods. He's kind of sort of false reventing it, if you remember the false revenant.
Revenant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Where.
Well, yeah. There's this.
He's in the woods.
Yeah, he's been stabbed. He actually has been stabbed.
Yeah.
He's in the woods, freezing. It's the winter time. Supposed to be in the south of Illinois.
He jumps in the river.
He jumps in the river like twice.
Yeah, and I mean he's jumping. It's like a good, little.
And he's
ego
making
boost.
He's in the mound. He's doing his little survival skills from the Eagle Scouts, or he makes a little mound of leaves to cover himself up in the night. When he's sleeping.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean it's a very, I don't want to say ego driven, but it's very bravado driven.
Yeah,
like,
it's.
Look at me, I'm tough.
The tough Lone Ranger kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a libertarian streak.
Yeah.
And here's another thing with it I think is interesting. It's set all in Illinois, but the vast majority of the countryside scenes were shot in North Carolina and Tennessee.
That explains why there's no snow in Chicago.
And there's also a lot of mountains in Illinois. In actual Illinois, there are no mountains.
It's pretty flat.
In the south of Illinois, you got hills that are close to what you get around here.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't get the Smoky Mountains, people. There are no mountains in Illinois.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was wondering is, watching the movie, I'm like, where's all this fucking
Yeah, they
snow?
shot, the train crash. The physical set, not the model, the physical set is still there where they shot it in Dillsboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think it's the tourist.
Yeah, people go and photograph themselves with it. It's just been sitting there for close to 30 years now,
So I wonder, do you think it was just it would have just been too much to pick it up or clean it up, or do you think they were just like, fuck it, no, let's leave it?
I'm inclined to the latter.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Yeah, it's in the middle of, where is it at? Oh. We'll just
It's an improvement to this little podunk town.
Yeah, okay. Lord, it would have been something that this movie bombed.
Well, but it didn't, so we didn't have to worry about that. No, I mean, it did well enough. I remember seeing the theaters were fairly well,
I was
packed.
kind of the reason why I was saying that, it would have been a shame if the movie bombed, because now that train that's just there for no reason.
And nobody would care then, but now it's a tourist attraction, and the locals probably do make a buck or two selling them lattes and things,
Oh yeah, I mean, go for that town,
Yeah. But yeah, the countryside scene, the dam, those the train crash, the chases through the woods,
hospital,
all that is
hospital stuff.
Yeah, all the country hospital. It's supposed to be Southern Illinois, but it's actually in North Carolina, Tennessee area.
That is a hell of a trek for one person
Yeah.
to go from Southern Illinois to.
Yeah.
Justin, I don't know if you've ever traveled through the state of Illinois.
I used to live in Illinois.
Okay, so you probably know, if you wanted to go from what's a town in South Illinois?
Shelbyville, Cairo.
Okay, if you want to go from there to Chicago, how long do you think it would take?
Oh, like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, really?
By driving, yeah.
Oh, really? I thought it was like 8 hours.
No, it's about 6 or 7 to do the entire state.
Okay.
But our trip from Georgia to Illinois every Christmas would take us an average of pure driving about 12 to 14 hours. Okay. But we since we're a whole bunch of different people, we'd stop and go pee and eat at different hours and get coffee at different places. So it would normally take us 17 or 18. But if you're driving like a bat out of hell from here to Champaign-Urbana, it'd take you about maybe 10, 12 hours.
And this is driving in. Was it? God, I'm already kind of forgetting this movie. I'm terrible. Did they imply that Kimball rode a train up there or rode a bus, something other than just walking? Because from what I remember,
he picked rides. He was hitchhiking.
Oh,
he showed him hitchhiking. Remember? Okay. Yeah, he was hitchhiking from the south. They were transporting him to a southern facility in the south of the state when they crashed. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was where he was going to meet his execution.
Well, he was going to prison before, because it usually takes years,
Right.
He was going to the facility in the southern portion of the state, yes. And they were most of the way there. They said it was going to take them about 40 minutes to get to the facility right before they crashed.
Yeah.
Before they were hijacked by the other prisoners, of course. Those wily prisoners always stabbing those prison guards. It's always happening, Oh,
yeah. I always feel terrible for prison guards.
Well, they're exploiters of the masses.
Yeah.
But no, so they were in the south of Illinois, so you're talking by car. If you got on the freeway, and now service streets like they showed would take you a little bit longer. If you're taking from, say, St. Louis, where he claimed to be in the phone call he was in Chicago, you're talking like 3 or 4 hours by freeway. But if you're driving the service streets, in the back roads, a little longer, Mm-hmm. But so you can see him hitchhiking for a couple of days to get to Chicago.
And I mean, there's no ticking time clock here. I mean, it's just whenever.
No, his wife is dead, so there's there's no.
There's no. We're hiding your wife in the basement of some.
Yeah, there's no
alleyway.
nuclear. There's no Jack Ryan nuclear bomb going to go off in Bethesda, Maryland, or something.
Yeah, and it's always moody. Like the movie itself is just moody.
Yeah, I actually do appreciate the moody, gritty kind of procedural way it moves. I do appreciate the pacing. I think the pacing is fairly spot on. It has spots of action. Things do explode.
Yeah.
But then you have some nice bits of poppy dialogue where they taunt each other, like right before the swan dive in the dam. They had their little exchange. I don't care.
Yeah.
So there's some nice time for the dialogue to play out.
Yeah, and then I mean, you have the banter in the marshal's room, or with Tommy and Joe and all the other cast members in there, and they feel at times like a team.
Is it who was the agent that was held hostage by the other prisoner? Was it Brad Dourif or Stephen Dorfman, somebody like that? Brad Dourif, the blonde agent.
I don't know. It did look like Brad Dourif.
Somebody like that. And when he shoots right next to him and shoots at the fugitive who's holding him hostage, that would be my last day as a federal marshal. Fuck you guys. I quit. I'm going to work in my drywall business with my brother. Okay.
Yeah.
No more of that crap.
Well, and also, to me, I feel like Tommy Lee Jones's character Gerard has an arc in that he goes from this, just fuck it, I don't care. I'm here to do a service. I'll do it. And you see that in the scene where he murders the other ex-convict that escaped.
Yep.
But throughout the movie, he learns shit. Like this whole thing is a complete clusterfuck that I didn't even know. And now it's my kind of obligation as an officer of the law to, figure it out.
Speaking of Tommy Lee Jones's character arcs, two things. I did find him kind of an annoying character. You can't say hinky. I'll say hinky whenever I want to, asshole. And secondly, did you know about the sequel?
Oh, is it U.S. Marshals?
Yes,
the actual...
with Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes as the fugitive in this case.
No,
not as good of a not as good of a film. Not as good as a film. not as well made.
So that's interesting. They made a sequel of that because I mean, Tommy Lee Jones's character is not the main character, even though he has the most defined arc in the movie. In that he goes from this, like I said,
that is a good point. Yes, but it kind of makes sense then too, because they couldn't afford for the lowered budget of the sequel to get Harrison Ford back.
But I mean, even that, like, what would Harrison Ford even do in the sequel? So
yeah, but people expect things,
right?
And it's sort of an obvious shoot off of the extension of how many sequels have you seen where the first movie there's a love arc There's a romantic arc to the film, and the love interest of the first film disappears in the second. Recently, when we did Weekend at Bernie's 1 and Weekend at Bernie's 2, this was supposed to be like 2 days later, and Richard's love interest...
It's gone.
Poof. Like, he doesn't have any clue about her existence anymore. She's been swallowed into a black hole of oblivion or something.
She's out of movie land.
Yes, and I really find that frustrating.
Yeah.
And they do it so wantonly that the woman is not a character; she's a prop, just to be thrown away.
She's a plot device.
Yes, and I really find it frustrating.
And going into the Mission Impossible movies a little bit, that was always my problem with Mission Impossible 3. Is that Michelle Monaghan, who's a great actress, it's a criminal we underuse her. Every director should be prosecuted for underusing her.
I agree, and I think that another one that gets sorely misunderstood and misused and underused, Michelle Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. She gets so many little bit parts and things. She could be a serious action movie contender.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she knows how to play with the big boys.
Right, and I think she could be a real action star. The only time I've ever seen her in a lead was a really weird, ridiculous movie where she plays the dude that gets a sex change operation.
Oh.
The action movie.
Oh, that Walter Hill movie.
Yeah, was that Walter Hill, yes. And they have her, at the beginning, they have her with a prosthetic penis, wearing an actual prosthetic penis. And they have this full frontal nudity of this fake male character. Yes, and then they have her get a sex change and turn her into a woman. It's like, yes, this is a really tortured... logic to this movie here,
That sounds bad.
It's so bad, but it's a fascinating train wreck.
Also, that's very transphobic.
It is. It is. There are a lot of issues with that movie, but I recommend it. If not for us, it's an oddity, sort of like the Circus Sideshow Freak Show. You have to look it up and find out the name. I tell you what, let me look it up and I'll find the name of that one, and you can tell us something else about Tommy Lee Jones or something.
So interestingly enough, we talked about last week. Another Stakeout was another production that had shot from January to April and then released in July. This too also got a rush post, primarily because the studio was loving what they were seeing. Because I think this movie, it doesn't specifically say when it was originally supposed to come out, but I'm assuming it was supposed to come out like in November or Christmas of 1993, and then they literally pushed it up as far as they could because they literally only had stopped filming at the end of April. And
then there was the rush to meet the deadline that they had superimposed on The Last Action Hero too. So there's a lot of rushed. Here's this film here, The Assignment. Walter Hill was it that directed it?
He was.
Yeah,
right there, the bottom.
Yeah, Walter Hill. But it's an interesting. I recommend you watch it because it's a fascinating exploration of how interesting things can go wrong with a film, and it is an intriguing. Plot.
Failure.
Yeah, an intriguing plot and intriguing failure. So I recommend The Assignment in 2016 by Walter Hill and Michelle Rodriguez. And if you watch it for nothing else, it's to see her full frontal nudity with a gigantic fake schlong, a big fake prosthetic penis. It's hilarious. The thing hangs down to her knee, I swear.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
It's outrageous. It's so fun. You need to have a cocktail when you see it.
Oh my god!
Or something stronger. Yes. Anyway, we're sidetracked about characters to get sidelined, which came from Harrison Ford of all places to Michelle Rodriguez wearing a fake penis.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my issue. So yeah, I mean that was the thing. Was at the time was they literally were editing all summer, to get them
bam to get it.
Yeah. At one point there was 6 editors on the movie.
Yep.
Working 2 different Avid machines, and everyone was just compiling the movie.
Yeah, in '93.
Together.
This is before we did the whole computer, nonlinear.
Yeah,
they're still using physical machines at the time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about today versus back then, there's not that many productions that just go from. There's not that many more productions anymore that go from we're gonna shoot till April and then release in June or
Right.
July.
Right. I mean, usually this is not a 100% thing, but usually you shoot in the summer or the fall, then you have all winter and most of the spring to post produce. Generally speaking, that's average. You shoot in 1 year, like say you shoot in 2012,
Right.
then you release it sometime later in 2013.
Yeah.
Say for instance, right?
Yeah, it's like we kind of, even though, and I do the air quote thing, everything's gone faster in editing and linear editing, but the
Right. Well, you have Lightbox and Apple.
Adobe Premiere,
Adobe Premiere is the big one now.
Avid,
yeah.
or
Avid. There's so many different programs. Vegas. There's so many different programs you can, and you just basically dump. Now since everybody shoots
that's what I was thinking of.
Final Cut.
Yeah.
A Final Cut. But all these different options you have. You basically shoot on digital, dump it to a camera, and you can see your footage the same day you shoot it. And get a rough cut. You can get a rough cut before you're even done shooting everything.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is, but we still have movies that take 8 months to post, and not saying that every director should just be like, you should be able to edit your movie in a week.
Right. Well, I mean, if you have an effects-heavy, a fantasy, sci-fi kind of
Which
thing,
that's-
going to have a lot of post-production to do the
that's happened
digital
over the
effects.
years.
Right. Yeah. A superhero movie isn't going to be, released a week after a shot.
But I just find it hilarious that now that technology has finally kept up to where we can do multiple cuts, we can do effects, the post has even gone longer and longer.
Yeah. Well, and the more you rely on computers, the more you can do in post.
Right.
Really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even our comedies have like tons of CGI shots.
And I have no problem with post. Post, to me, is where you're really bringing everything together. You've got the whole recipe kind of stewing and fomenting and letting all these ideas kind of gel and all this stuff. The longer you take, sometimes, it gives you some more time to breathe and let the edit breathe and stuff. So, I think a long post-production is not bad.
Oh, no, I've never, I don't complain about long posts. I mean, it's, even as a filmmaker, we're both filmmakers, and
I say I am.
well, we've made shorts. Okay, we've made shorts.
We've worked with cameras. We've worked
Yeah.
with Avid and
Adobe.
and
We're recording
Vegas.
on Adobe right now.
Yep.
But yeah, we're just, I mean, it's just interesting that like productions were like, okay, yeah, go ahead and just do this and do this and do this and do this, and we'll have the movie out in 3 months.
Yep.
It's just
That's crazy. That's
fascinating.
crazy stuff though. Right there. That's crazy.
It is. I think I think the Mission Impossible movies are the last of those movies that still do, like they'll shoot till February or March and then release in late July. I think the new one and then the one before it were both like they
Rogue
finished in
Nation
spring.
was
Yes.
the last one. Yeah.
And then Fallout, they both had.
Yep.
But the thing is that I pointed out that I would point out in those movies is that they're editing while they're making the movie. So
Sure.
they're
Right. And I've seen that. You get somebody on set with an Apple.
Right.
They got in that case it'd be Final Cut. But then you get somebody with a Windows machine. They got Adobe, and they're on set. They're shooting. You have the director and the cinematographer and the actors on one side of the house, shooting something, and then in the kitchen, there's the editor putting the rough cut together.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes they're seeing the movie even before they're done filming. So
That's like the first I ever heard of that was the mid-thousandsies movie, the Zodiac, the Fisher.
Fincher,
Fincher, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Fincher's the Zodiac movie.
Yeah,
And
David Fincher, yeah.
David Fincher, sorry. But the Zodiac was one of my favorite movies from him because it had such a real, it's a real thing that happened.
It's an authentic take
yes,
on it.
and it's a very well and thoroughly researched movie. There's a lot of detail in the film.
And even through all that research, that movie still doesn't give you like a definitive answer.
No. But it's a very good movie. I think it's David Fincher's best movie by far. But anyway, the point was that was the first I'd ever heard about that. He's shooting digital, and they're dumping and even showing rudimentary special effects on the same day. They have a guy doing green screen fills and rough computer renders of artificial skylines and things like that for the 1960s version of the San Francisco skyline. The day they shoot it, they have a rough render of the special effects on the day they shoot it. It's like, oh, this, and that was the first time I was going like, fuck film. Digital is the motherfucking way to go. You know?
Fincher would agree with you because he's just been like, I'm just investing in the future. I don't.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with the let's dump this goddamn stupid bullshit 19th century film goddamn shit and shoot on 21st century technology. And Christopher Nolan can go fuck himself.
Not to get on a film versus digital argument. Not to get on a film versus
because this was shot on film.
Yeah, not to get on a film versus digital argument, but I'm okay with where we're at with the film and digital place. I mean, I would love for one day like they make a 14K camera. Like, I mean, I know we're getting there.
Right, they're up to 8K. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But, oh yeah. I mean, they just came out with the red helium a year or two ago.
Yeah. Well, if they get into the 16K territory, you're going to get to pretty close to 35 millimeter, roughly. You know, it's all arbitrary.
Well, 6K is 35 millimeter pixel anyway.
Yeah, but then you've got the 70 millimeter films and things.
Right. Which, I mean, they always rendered through the 8K process anyway when they do. So, I mean, we're at the point where we're here, with digital technology. Really the only thing I find that needs to be worked on more is developing more cameras that have like the space that can hold.
It's raw memory.
Yeah, that raw memory.
Yeah.
Because when you shoot on 8K, I mean, literally after 2 shots, you literally have to go take that drive out, and then you have to have like 20 drives on standby.
Right, or build like a 10 terabyte drive that goes into the camera.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and so shooting on 8K, it looks great, and it will be the future. But I think the more we work on memory storage and improving that and making it more compact, because right now, even this computer can't hold. I might be able to shoot 1 second in 8K and put it on this computer before it crashes. That's how detailed it is.
Yeah. I mean, just the massive, the exponential increase in file size because of that,
Right.
Anyway.
The Fugitive.
Richard Kimball, yes. Mr. Train Crash.
Yeah.
At the end, they have their big shootout scene, the foot chase through the Hilton in Chicago.
Where they're having the little convention to sell the Provascular pill.
Yeah. I think it's actually named something like Provaskin or something, isn't it?
I think. I heard it named Provascular.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're having this foot chase, and they're all over this fucking building because it's a fucking movie.
Yeah. From the ballroom to the personal suites to the roof to the laundry, elevator shafts. Yep.
Yeah, and then it ends in a dark place where very kind of not completely similar, but very aesthetically similar to where Jones and Ford met in the tunnel. Like they made
in the bowels of a hotel instead of the bowels of a dam. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, in the bowels of that hotel, they find the truth. They basically read out the truth. And so really interesting direction from Andrew Davis.
Yep.
It kind of bums me that Andrew Davis didn't make hasn't made a movie since 2006 with The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher.
That was a fun movie to be watched drunk. And then there's also the fact that Dr. Nichols, who turns out to be the big bad, of course he's a red herring that he acts like a friend.
Yeah.
In the first half of the film, it turns out to be the big bad, and he's all subterfugeous that he hides his actions and does his bad actions through. Right, but through the whole movie, he has other people do all his nefarious things for him, and then at the very end of the movie, he comes out and just becomes a badass and starts clunking people in the head and taking guns and becoming an action kind of dude. After the whole time he's been like a kind of behind the scenes kind of a guy, and he handily at the end becomes Mr. Action, and so kind of overplays his card handy enough while the U.S. Marshal is there. I can foresee, that maybe you could excuse it as his adrenaline was flowing or something like that. But you could also see the character doing something like, "Oh, help me! This guy, he come in, he accosted me. He's got a gun," and try to frame up Dr. Kimball again. You could see that kind of a like more of a wormy thing too. You know what I mean?
He could, but then again, I think he was done for. I mean, I think Tommy Lee Jones had kind of put it together what was happening.
Sure, but that would also give Tommy Lee Jones more of a snap arc. That there's the the put it two and two together, and it would make it a little more obvious. Maybe I think it's just a little too facile to have Nichols suddenly become a man of action after he's hidden behind his desk the entire movie.
Right.
And like I said, you can explain it. It's not impossible. It's just handy that the screenwriters wrote it that way.
Well, it should also be known that Tommy Lee Jones did uncredited rewrites for this movie, so it makes a little sense when you now know that.
Especially when you hear he's got a lot more dialogue than maybe he would have, right?
Yeah, because this is I understand what. It is. Of course, it's Tommy Lee Jones. He's going to get second billing, but still, it's a little bit like, this movie would be like 10, 15 minutes shorter if we didn't have so many of these scenes.
Right.
Which kind of just led to my final problem, which is even though the movie is well paced, it still feels very long to me. And it feels long, I think, because you're just waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for everybody to kind of connect the dots, and I don't know. It just kind of just took a little too long for me. I was like,
well, it's interesting to say that because so many of these action and superhero movies now are like 2.5 hours long and things.
And I think they're better paced.
Oh, well, they're overstuffed, if that's what you mean.
No, they're better paid. Like they consistently are entertaining throughout the whole piece. Like really, the only scene that I felt like that was well paced was the opening, like 14 minutes where they're just going through that, the confession to the trial to on the bus,
which I thought was a little too fastly paced. It's almost a montage.
Yeah.
I thought the pacing of the rest of the movie was more appropriate, actually.
Really?
Yes, and these movies, the superhero movies, oftentimes outside of like the Thor Ragnarok, which had kind of a weird kind of off the wall, almost a Barbarella, Flash Gordon kind of a feel, which it kind of stuck out. The rest of the Avenger, X-Men, they all run together. I have a terrible time keeping them a track from one another because all the action is very similar and very similar put together, and I lose track of these superhero movies so easily and so quickly.
It's machine work, or it's factory.
How many Iron Mans are there now? 3 or 4?
3.
Okay.
There are 3.
I haven't seen Avengers yet. I'll probably watch it shortly because it's now on digital.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch it in the next couple of weeks. But, overall, like the Avengers, the Winter Soldier, what's some others? I couldn't tell you what happened in each one. I've seen them all.
I can, but that's because I'm invested in this series.
Yeah, I'm not a big, the last superhero movie that I really honestly actually liked was the first Batman.
The Tim Burton Batman.
Yes. 1989 was the last time I liked a superhero movie.
That reminds me. We should do a Batman retrospective.
Do all of them?
Wait a
With
minute.
the 1966 Batman?
Damn it, I already did that one. I already did the Batman movies.
Damn it, Robin! We've been foiled again!
Maybe we can do a redo. Because it's been...
Hey, everybody else is rebooting everything. Why not?
Maybe we will do a redo because... Hey, that summer of 1989, looking pretty good.
Batman, the retrospective, the reboot.
Now that I'm thinking about it, wink, wink. The summer of 1989 might be next season of this.
The next retrospective,
Wink, wink,
89.
wink, wink. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we won't do it. Maybe we'll do 99 or something. Who knows?
Hey, you're the
We're
boss,
84.
man.
Yeah.
You're the boss. I just watch him.
Cool. Wink, 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 wink.
Anyway, I think it's an acceptable action film, The Fugitive. I would give it roughly 3 out of 5 stars, roughly.
Yeah, I would give it 3 out of 5 too, because it is well made. Like, I think Andrew Davis never leaves never takes us out of the subjectiveness of Richard Kimball, and also and regardless of what I say about the pace, like the plot still moves forward with every scene. It's not like it's not like there's fat or there's like a scene where,
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I think, bear with me here for a second.
Uh-huh.
You recall The Silence of the Lambs, I'm sure.
Yes.
I think that actually they're similarly paced.
Right.
There's a lot of build-up, there's a lot of investigation, there's a lot of background, and a lot of atmosphere that they use to get to
There's
get
a
to
lot
places.
of waiting for that shoe to drop.
Yes, and I think they're both built in a similar fashion. Wouldn't you say yes? And I think they both worked for the thing they're doing. I think The Fugitive is maybe a little bit more straightforward and less dubious of a picture. I'm not a big fan of Hannibal Lecter. He's a cannibal who goes around eating people, but he's a good guy, and I'm not fully on board with that.
He's the anti-hero.
He's
Venom.
yes. But there are anti-heroes that I prefer. Over that, like the classic spaghetti western, for instance, Clint Eastwood, Blondie.
Right.
He's an anti-hero, and I prefer him. Or Tuco from the same film, Eli Wallach, the ugly in that film. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Tuco. When that rope started to tighten, you feel the devil biting your ass. Those are good anti-heroes.
All right, so with that, do we have any more to say on The Fugitive?
If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah, it's a good TNT movie. If you're in a house on a rainy day, it's good.
Pop some popcorn.
Yeah.
Watch an actioner. Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps you invested.
And Harrison Ford is still in his prime. He's still moving. He's still doing his thing with a quick quip.
Yeah, and this was before the Jack Ryans. And
yeah, and he was, and so this is actually, if you think about it, in a way, sort of like a proto Jack Ryan.
Right.
So if you like the Jack Ryans, you'll probably like this. Wouldn't you say?
Actually, let me check and make sure.
That the Jack Ryans came after?
Yeah, I want to say yes.
Was the first one the Patriot Games? No, that was the second one, wasn't it?
Okay, Clear and Present Danger came out in 1994, and then...
So the next year, yeah.
Patriot... no, Patriot Games came out before.
Yeah, 92.
So this was during the Jack Ryan.
Yeah, the Jack Ryan era, yeah.
Interesting. All right, so I was a little wrong. It's my bad.
So he was already doing Jack Ryan when they did The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that... and also Tommy Jones plays a good character, and this was before he quit giving a shit. So yeah, go see The Fugitive.
Yeah, like I said, like the rain we've been having, and you're stuck inside. Watch The Fugitive. It's on HBO this month.
Actually, today is the first day where it's been sunny so far.
Right. Well, if the rain comes back, get yourself outside, and then if it comes back, then you watch the Fugitive with some popcorn. Get an animal, sit there, cup of hot cocoa, popcorn. There you go. Watch the movie.
Yep. So with that, that's it for this episode. Next week we are going to do. I think this next one will be our season finale.
Okay. The retrospective is over for the season.
For the summer. It's over.
Cruel summer.
I think we'll do something in October.
Something Halloween related?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm coming up with some ideas. I'm thinking of some things. But we will definitely be back for Christmas for 2 movies, Mrs. Doubtfire and Die Hard.
Die Hard the first?
The first one.
The Nakajima building?
The Nakatomi building.
Nakatomi building, yeah.
We will be back for those in Christmas.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yep. And then we might do a couple more scattered about. I mean, I've been promising the Rambo movies for like almost a year, like a retrospective on those. But yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Your good old-fashioned American bloodshed.
Yep. I've been promising those, so maybe they'll come eventually. And then I don't know what we'll do for Halloween. I wanted to really do something artiste, like, I don't know. I really wanted to do like a retrospective of like Suspiria or Dario
Argento. I was going to say Dario Argento, and you could use Dario Argento as a segue into the other wider realms.
Suspiria movie,
or you could do the Italian zombie movies, which are a big thing in the 70s.
Oh, the Lucio Fulci movies.
Yeah.
Well,
like zombies being eaten by sharks or whatever,
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's just what we're thinking of, but we're gonna do
Cannibal Holocaust. Paul Glaze was
I don't know about
going
that.
to do that. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen it?
I've seen parts of it, and
Right.
I get real, for whatever reason, those movies that are shot or that were done on like 16 millimeter movies,
Right.
like 16 millimeter film,
Right.
like the Texas Chainsaw,
Yeah.
and the Cannibal Holocaust, and those little horror movies,
The little cheap, low budget guys.
that do it very visceral. It's not like super gory, but it's still visceral. It just it's a little too much for me.
Right, it's too intense. Okay, well, I mean, it was a suggestion. I, have, been into those kind of films in the past, but
And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not ready to do Freddy Krueger yet. We've been doing because the last, we've been kind of in a steady trend.
Yeah, Jason last year.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're gonna push Freddy Krueger to the Halloween retrospectives of 2019.
Okay.
But we're definitely gonna do something for Halloween. I don't know what.
Well, just be thinking on it, and if you want to, let me know. I'll be by to chat if you like.
Yeah, we'll think about it. It might be just some random scary movies. I mean, I would love to do something for Psycho.
Yeah. Psycho, a seminal
Hitchcock.
film. Yes, not the Vince Vaughn.
Oh no.
Van Zandt version.
Oh no! But I think that movie is celebrating a 20th anniversary this year.
Yeah, it was 98 when it 1st came out. Yeah.
So maybe we might
Compare and contrast or something?
Yeah, do a little compare and contrast. And
guess which one I like better.
well, let me guess, the 98 version.
Of course. Vince Vaughn, I'm so hot for that guy.
Yeah, so that's just what we're coming up with.
And Hesh again, too.
Yeah, as
the
Janet
victim.
Leigh character.
Yeah, Janet Leigh, the victim in the shower.
Oh me. But yeah, we're gonna do something for Halloween, and it'll be it'll be decided on in the next month from now, because we want to get started at the end of September.
Right.
And but I think we'll definitely do Suspiria because I love that movie, and also I'm super excited for the new.
Dario Argento is hard to beat, man. Dario Argento is good stuff. So.
He is the king of mood.
Yes.
Of tone, but yeah. So next week will be the season finale. We are going to do the John Woo, Jean-Claude Van Damme collaboration.
Hard Target.
Yee!
Put some reverb on that.
Oh, I'm gonna have I'm probably gonna have the ground shake. It's gonna. But so yeah, we're gonna do that, and that'll be it. That'll be it for 93. Because I mean, and not to end 93 on kind of a bummer. Because I mean, there's plenty of stuff we could have done. We could have done Coneheads.
A little bit more of an obscure.
Yeah, we could have done more
film.
stuff. Right, we could have done more, but I think we're kind of nearing the end. And also, we're recording at the school here still, and I'm kind of overstepping my boundaries because I don't have a parking pass.
Well,
anymore.
neither do I.
Well, you gotta get one.
Yes, I will in a couple of days.
Yeah. So we're gonna just do one more, squeeze one more out of this, and then I guess we'll figure out what we're gonna do in October and December.
Alrighty, sounds good to me.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh wait. Do you have stuff to plug?
Well, I am really hoping that if you have any post-production needs, I have Adobe Creative Cloud, the whole suite. So if you need Premiere or Animate or After Effects or any of that, audio, video, will work on it. And I have this awesome kick-ass computer. So if you need any post-production stuff, hit me up at Justin Mayhew or alcoolworld at yahoo.com or at the Cardboard Rocket, because I'm really ready. I would love to get some practice, get back into Adobe, because I did a lot with Vegas and stuff like that. So I've got the whole package now, Photoshop, Illustrator, all of it. So
Okay, cool. I'll put those links in the description below.
So if you guys need, like I said, if you need help with something, I'm down. I'm ready to go get some practice. Okay.
Cool. And you can follow me on Twitter at MovieKale. You can also follow the show at The Youth Critic. And then you can also follow the channel that distributes this podcast at KHZ Network. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back with you next week for Hard Target.
All right. How was that?
Hold on.
Did you get it, all of it?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen up. We have a fugitive that's been on the run for 90 minutes. Average foot speed over uneven ground, barring injury, is 4 miles an hour. That will give you a radius of 6 miles. What I want out of each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, or dog house in this area. Checkpoints will go up at 15 miles. Your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball. Go get him.